So Dean, first off, buddy, thank you so fucking much for being here. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show. I've got a really complicated relationship with your work in the past.
Do we need a therapist, a moderator for this?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm listening.
No. I hold the Mcpherson Tapes personally responsible for fucking me up in my formative stoner years. It hit me in a way that I didn't quite expect, and it's stuck with me ever since. So I just needed to get that out of the way now.
It's been compared to STDs a lot.
Right.
It's permanently changed Ben's relationship with zoos.
Just let people know that you're a carrier of this and you're fine.
Genuinely, when Ben started talking about it, I was like, oh, what is this? What is this? This can't be all that. And then I watched it and he kind of explained the heritage behind it. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And then I watched it and knowing as I did that it was a created fiction, knowing as I did that I had the safety of 20 years and, having watched films a lot, still spooked me out, man. So it's not just a Ben problem.
I usually like to get to the audience earlier in the formative years.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many emails of people telling me that they still sleep with a nightlight on.
Yeah.
Which at first I felt really bad. I'm like, I don't want to be a part of someone's disrupted sleep. But then I thought about it and actually they were the ones that made it okay for me. They said, no, it got me. It was my gateway into horror. And some of these people were filmmakers. And so I guess that's a good thing. Anything, that elicits a response like that takes you out of, your normal life and everything. Escapism, if you will. I'm happy to be a part of that.
It's a horror comedy, but it's also got this really warm heart and soul. But it also has enough twists to almost legally be classified as fusilli. Where did you get the inspiration for Last Podcast? Like, what was the driving force where you were like, fuck, I'm making this film. This is where it's going.
It came about because of what you guys do.
Okay.
So when I made the Mcpherson, it was kind of, it was way undercooked. And what I mean by that is when we went to sell it in Los Angeles, I grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco. When we went to sell it, everyone looked at this weird thing. Again, this is 1988.
Yeah.
They literally were, one woman yelled at us and said, get the fuck out of my office until you have a real film.
Wow.
What is this crap? They didn't get this, found footage because it was essentially 10 years before Blair Witch came out.
Of course.
And so it again, just backing up, I had dropped out of 2 film schools, didn't know how to make the break and make my first film. I certainly didn't have the money that it took to do a 16 millimeter or 35 millimeter.
Okay.
But I had done these wedding videos with a buddy of mine. And I'm like, well, what if I make a home video where something fucked up happens?
Yeah.
And that was it. And then I read Whitley Strieber's book, Communion, about his supposed experience with beings not from here.
Scary fucking book, man.
Terrified the shit of me. Yeah. More than any other Stephen King.
Yeah.
More than any Stephen King novel. So I fused the two with a foundation of Spielbergitis. I'm
nice.
Talk about afflicted. I'm definitely afflicted with Spielberg. When I saw E.T., that's when I told my mother, I said, I'm a filmmaker. Done. I know what the rest of my life looks like. Yeah. And it's going to be painful, but I won't know it at the time. I need a moment.
Oh, bud.
The spaceships in Mcpherson are really close encounters reminiscent. They've got that same geometry and that same primary color lighting that I think is such a touchstone of that era of extraterrestrial filmmaking that it just fits subconsciously without having to do much more work. You're like, no, I know what that is without having to see all that much of it.
It's become iconic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is this thing the movie actually gets distributed. And then the distribution company, I went to check in with it a couple months later and say, hey, how are we doing? How are the sales going? And they said, it's up. It's up in smoke, dude. I'm sorry. And I'm going, up in smoke? That's great. It's on fire? What does that mean? And he goes, no. The warehouse where we have all of our master tapes caught fire.
Jesus Christ.
Literally. And so I thought, well, that's it. Shit, time to move on. That's the film gods telling me, nice try, kid. continue down
This
the road.
isn't for you. You're the guy that cures
Jesus.
cancer. Don't make films.
Yeah.
What a waste
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would be.
Don't make a movie again until you have something to say. So so that was it. And then 5 years later, I get a call from this guy saying, "Hey, we're trying to find the people who, whoever made this or found this footage of this family being abducted." And I said, "Well, what do you mean by found?" And he goes, "Well, this abduction footage that's out there." And I go, "What do you mean that's out? What are you talking about?" I go, "Dude, who the fuck are you?" And he's like, "My name's so-and-so. I just came back from the mothership of UFO conventions called the International UFO Congress Convention in Vegas, of course."
Yeah.
And it was shown without credits. There's no credits. This was shown as an actual abduction tape. And it's bringing the house down. A lieutenant colonel with 40 years Air Force intelligence. This is U.S. Air Force intelligence. Claimed that it was real.
Amazing.
And and so when I got done laughing, I said, "Okay, well, that's thank you. That was really amusing. That's awesome. It wasn't my intention to fool people. It was just to make it look realistic, so that as soon as the movie started, you were into it."
Yeah.
And first person I thought was the best vehicle to do that. So anyway, he says there's a show called Unsolved Mysteries and Hard Copy, and this Fox show called Encounters. And they want to do a big, thing on this. And I said, "Well, I guess Unsolved Mysteries is out." And they're like, "Well, not necessarily." And I go, "Dude, it's called Unsolved, not Solved Mysteries." All right. So I end up going on this national show. This then it was owned by Fox, called Encounters, and it. And so I went on national TV to debunk my own film. I think that's the first and only time that's happened.
That's a pinch yourself moment, though, where you sit there and you go, the fuck am I doing? Like, how did I end up on national television telling people that those aliens are my friends?
The closest experience that you can get an idea of it is Forrest Gump, where he finds himself and he's bigger than, I feel like the Forrest Gump, not as smart as Forrest Gump, but the Forrest Gump of UFOs and found footage. So anyway, years go by and then the internet hits and more conspiracies began.
Yeah.
And so now I'm spending some of my time going on there and saying, this is not real. And I'm getting, fuck you. You work for the government, you informing bastard.
I found so much of that shit on Reddit. Like, there is so much of you working for the government on Reddit.
Yeah. Well, there was a mayor of San Francisco years ago in the 70s, and his last name was Alioto.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like get in your Evel Knievel motorcycle and jump over the Grand Canyon to make that leap.
Yes, but these are the same people that are picking certain numbers out of certain, they'll find a paragraph of a Wendy's menu and they'll go, well, if you take every third letter, it says this. And there's a spectrum of conspiracy. And
well, that one is true. That one actually has to be true. But for my case, so I'm like, well, fuck you. Here's some behind the scenes pictures, dude. And so ultimately what happened was this kind of cult fan base split off into two sections. There was the UFO people who I love, and they were like, this is real. And if it isn't, talk to me about how you achieve this, blah, blah. And then there is the found footage fans. And they're like,
this is
we
great.
Didn't know about this. How come we didn't know about this? Why didn't anyone tell us? And I'm like, dude, I tried, but it literally needed to ripen. Like
national television, motherfucker. I was on national television.
I'm trying to fucking do something here, folks. Something original. I'm sorry. And the biggest criticism I got that actually gave me, I almost said STD, that gave me PTSD. There's the difference, folks. I mean, you could probably have both, but
you can get both in one night. Trust me, I've been there.
They usually. It does happen all in one night, usually. So what happened was I showed it to the casting director for the Mcpherson tape, and whose son is in the movie. Yeah. And I gave her the first, peek at the first cut, and turn the lights on, and she's like, "Did you just give me an STD?" No. And she's like, she's like, "Wow, that was really disappointing." And I thought she was joking, and she said,
"What?"
Yeah, she said, it just looks this is so amateurish. It's you got people talking over each other. It's all handheld.
Oh, no.
This is just, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but best of luck. And so that was the first outside viewer that saw it. And so that was branded in my brain as being, your little movie.
Yeah,
your little gimmicky thing.
It's a good idea to shoot it like as if it's a home movie and as if it's real, but people won't make that inductive leap as an audience, and therefore the idea is shot.
Yeah.
Right. It's the first pancake, move on.
Yeah.
And then, so when we went to show it at Fantastic Fest in 2019 for the 25th anniversary, I was scared shitless. My girlfriend, Allie, said, where do you want to sit? I'll get us seats, beforehand, before you do the intro and everything. And I said, next to the aisle, because this may go south. And she goes, ha. And I go, no, this might, because I haven't seen it in 25 years.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and that wasn't a good viewing. And so even though I know that there were people who dug it and everything, that the chances are that, a sold out room, that everyone is going to roll with that. It just seemed like there was potential for something really ugly to happen.
Yeah, you've been burned once, right? Once bitten, twice shy.
Once, I'm burned for life. Yeah.
Right, exactly. We get how creativity is. Someone's like, oh, it's not for me. And you're like, oh, my soul.
Yeah. And so when I knew that it actually worked and I had achieved this goal that I had set out to do at 24 years old, it was when my girlfriend grabbed my leg. And not in a sexual way, unfortunately. Grabbed my leg and was digging her nails in, and I knew, she's scared. This is good.
Okay.
Not that she should be scared of her boyfriend, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just everything he stands for and makes and puts out in the world, right?
Our safe word is Mcpherson.
So
right.
The unsafe word.
So people started laughing and enjoying it, and because it was set in the 80s, some of the humor and stuff, and just brothers, the relationship between the two of them, all of that came out, and it finally played, and it was just this huge, relief, and the things that I wanted to do, that I set out to do, like the overlapping dialogue and stuff, has become kind of mainstay.
Is there a certain bitterness to being a man 20 years before your time? Do you find the sort of wave of found footage stuff now and how popular it is? Is there a certain annoyance that you had that idea, you just had it 20 years before all the audiences were ready?
That's really assuming that I'm petty. And,
I am.
And insecure.
Same.
And you're pretty close to the target. So, no, the thing is, here's what happened. So I did a remake for a UPN.
You did.
Called Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County, which the original title is convoluted, guys. The original title was called The Mcpherson Tape. And they didn't like it. It was not enough on the nose. So let's just call it Alien Abduction.
Yeah.
In Lake County.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll put music in it too, by the way. Great idea, guys. So anyway, when we went to shoot that film up in Vancouver, and we got the guys from the X-Files to do the ship and aliens and everything. We didn't do it in one night. We did this one in a week. We came back. Everyone had been fired. And so we come back to a new regime. And so they're looking at this, and they're like, again, what the fuck? Thank God we're here to save the network.
Right.
And we're going to take this bastard redheaded child, and we're going to cut it down to an hour. And we're going to put in music, and we're going to put in a couple interviews that were not in there, and have like some unofficial host. And so we got fired. And that was my first DGA, Directors Guild job and everything. And turns out they couldn't do that, so they had to pay a penalty, but they aired it. And so, and again, I'm thinking in my head, I've been found out again that this idea doesn't work, right? And I'm feeling really shitty about it and everything, and then being fired from, So, and it was their flagship first TV movie for this network. And so they aired on a Tuesday night prime time, which is basically leading, the lamb to slaughter. And miracle behold, it gets them the highest ratings for prime time. So
fucking amazing.
They're like, all right, let's go for broke, and let's put it one more time out there and put in some new footage and see what happens, and it does even better. And at that point, the new head of the network is like, fuck this. And he literally says this, and I heard it from the head of the TV movie department.
Right.
That fucking movie will never be on this network again.
What?
Because he didn't create it. The last regime, Lucy.
It's a hangover. So it's the ginger stepchild left over from the previous marriage. Stick it in the basement.
Not PC, not cool.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that does its thing and seems to do well, and then that has its own cult following and its own belief system, etc. And so what happens is a few more years goes by, and then people start discovering that one and the original one as well. And so I start doing podcasts. So from like 2018 until now, I'm occasionally doing podcasts. And then a buddy of mine who's got this UFO podcast, that is a grounded UFO one. It's not really a tinfoil hat one. Okay. I've been on his show before, and he lets me take the piss out of him. And
Amazing.
He does me and the whole thing. We don't take ourselves serious, right?
Yeah.
He says, I've got to go in for open heart surgery. Would you fill in for me?
Right.
And my first question was, am I in your will? And I don't know if he ever answered that. But anyway, I said, dude, of course.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
So for a month, I was a podcaster.
Fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. So I can speak the language a little bit. And so at the end of it, I was unfortunately encouraged to do my own podcast.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, well, I don't know that I can just do UFOs. I need to do movies. I need to do music. Big music fan. And so I thought, okay, well, let's go down that road for a little bit. So I start doing research, and 6 months later, I've not gotten any further. I'm like, because I want to come out of the gate firing. I want to get that 100,000 subscriber base. Hit that mark and everything. And the logo and all the stuff and what the name of it is. And finally, Allie looks over at me, my girlfriend. She's like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing my research for my podcast. And she goes, no, why are you doing this? And I go, because this is going to be fun. Okay. Right. Can I just get back now? And she's like, this doesn't look very fun. And I opened my mouth to like have a rebuttal. There was none. Yeah. And I just went, yeah, fuck this. And I stopped cold turkey. I never looked back. And I'm like, I'm not a podcaster. What the fuck? Yeah. And I lost like several months of my time. And I'm like, God damn it. That's a net loss. That's not good. And then I hear that there's a strike coming, and I'm in the Directors Guild, which means I'm not going to be able to direct. And I've been doing documentaries for like 4 years prior to that. And I just thought, and this is just last year ago, last February. And I thought, all right, I have to spin this into something. I got to make a movie before, we're shut down on the strike. And right there, boom, it was obvious. It was, well, you got to do a movie about a podcaster who's obsessed, young podcaster. And his angle is that he's a debunker. And because I do a bit of not debunking, but let's say analysis with the UFO stuff. Yeah. People will call me up because I'm a filmmaker and say, hey, take a look at this footage. And I go, hey, it's bullshit. What else you got? Yeah, that's where the idea came. And so the movie is kind of about this adulation of trying to get attention. And why do you want that attention? And what is the reason for that? And so, and then because I'm a genre fan, there's going to be some fucked up moments.
So without spoiling the film, there are characters in this without any dialogue whatsoever. But the thing that kind of fucked me up with those characters is that there is no sound at all after a certain point, and it freaks me out every time because I feel like I'm waiting for the loud noise to hit, but it's like everything is gone. There is no sound coming from whatsoever. Is this inspiration from silent film era? Do you have like a specific inspiration that you took to get that effect into the film?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a silent movie. There was something that was pure cinema about it. And when I say silent, it's like you would go to the movies and it wasn't silent because you would have a live orchestra.
Yeah.
And, but as far as the emoting, there was no narration as people are talking, narrating their feelings and stuff that we normally see in a
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
So I thought, God, that would be so great to marry the two.
I had an abortive attempt to get Ben into Charlie Chaplin movies, and we did
Yes.
3. I did The Kid, Modern Times, and then Limelight. And
hell yeah.
The audience were not. We're every movie ever, but apparently not Chaplin. The audience they need slightly more modern than that. So it's nice seeing those silent influences in your movie making, because you can kind of feel it come through, that sense of expression.
Yeah. Well, the character who plays this character that we're talking about, Gabriel Rush, he is phenomenal. He's been in 2 Wes Anderson films. He's fantastic. He was also on Broadway doing Billy Elliot.
Wow.
Played Billy Elliot, I believe. So his physicality is great. His deadpan, because when I think of the silent era, the face that was made, if you're just talking about the face, not the whole body and everything, Buster Keaton, it stops right there, right?
Yeah.
And so we talked about that. And so even when we were doing the sound mix, Boom Studio, Post Studios, who did the sound, Chris Basta, he and I came up with this idea that, we'll just have whenever this one element in the movie shows up, that we don't hear anything. So within that scene, there'll be other sounds, but you won't. So if you see the film again, you'll notice there is nothing, and it is creepy.
Yeah,
and it's just so enough to kind of go, that's something's off there.
Yeah, it fucks with me every time, man. I've seen this a couple times now. I've watched it back to back, and I watched it again this morning. And honestly, there's a certain scene where they change seats. And in that, there is nothing. You can hear the other chair creak through him, and I'm like, I fucking hate it. I hate it. It just gets me. You know what I mean? It's cold bones sort of feeling that is, man. You've done found footage and you've done like fully produced movies. Both all have their challenges, but which one do you prefer working with? Which is your favorite medium?
Narrative. Straight narrative films. I do like to mix the two. Like in the new one, there is some meta aspect to it. When he's doing the podcast, there's the Zoom that goes on. So that's always seems to be kind of a component. This film I did, Portal, these guys were basically, ghost hunters. And so I guess that footage would have been left behind. So it always kind of creeps in there because I love mixing formats. I love trying to rediscover new narratives, and found footage narrative is that new narrative. And as much as people keep saying, oh, this is come and gone, I've pitched it to Jason Blum before, and he's told me in the room, he's like, nah, it's over. We're not.
It's Jason Blum. Come on. What does he know?
There was going to be a third version of the Mcpherson tape.
A third version.
And Jason was like, no, it's not something that he feels it will have run. It's already run its course. And then Unfriended. Then they release Unfriended and stuff.
Right.
And so, not that I know any better than Jason. I certainly don't. Both of us, were looking at it like, could this be something that could extend? And for him, it wasn't. But then, again, inventive filmmakers would take it and put a new spin on it. So you asked me earlier what I feel about these all the other found footage films that have followed. Besides the fact that I don't receive residual checks for that. I'm fine. I mean, I look at Blair Witch and I go, God damn, I should have submitted this to film festivals. But again, it was too early, man. Not good to be early.
And also, I think there's always, in any art form, this happens especially in music. I worked in music for a while, and you'll always have an originator, and the originator is very rarely regarded socially until much, much later. There's usually the originator, and then there's the popularizer. I'm obsessed with Nine Inch Nails. But to say that Trent Reznor invented industrial music would be completely untrue. He's the guy that 100%. Came along and put pop songs in it, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone went, well, we hate that because you're doing really well with stuff that we invented.
Yeah. 7 Inch Nails invented that. Everyone knows that. Yeah. So all you do is you just continue striving, ahead. I do love found footage. There is... there's that third version that almost got made with Paramount's In Surge division, which did their paranormal activity and stuff. And so it's
Yeah.
written. It's been on the runway for a while. Unfortunately, we were all greenlit, had a negative pickup deal, and we're all set. And then the execs waited too long for
Right.
production company waited too long to actually close the deal. They were trying to find someone who'd done budgets and line producing for a found footage film. It's like, hey, I've done 2 of those. We don't need the perfect guy. And so within that time, a year's time, that division of Paramount folded. And so, but the script is still there. I was able to, after having done it, twice, this storyline, I was able to infuse some things in it that did, I feel, definitely improve upon and have some new fucked up treats in it as well.
Yeah.
So someday I hope to complete that trilogy. But
same.
Yeah. For me, guys, for me, it's the story. The story tells me where it wants to go. I've done Westerns, I've done comedies. It's whatever that is. And so if it ends up being in found footage again, then my deal with the muse is I try to shut up, get out of the way and say, yeah, where do you want me to go?
We initially covered the Mcpherson tape as part of a trilogy of films that Ben brought to the podcast. The things that had kind of really affected him emotionally on his grow up.
Yeah, it was called the Ben's Trigger Trilogy.
We tied it in to what was current events at the time we covered it, which was the David Grush disclosure in the US government. And as a man who spends a lot of time at conventions and is on podcasts and is very much has one foot in the filmmaking world and one foot in the UFO world, are we right to be a little bit excited?
All right. So this is where I'm at with it because anytime someone goes into the UFO alien rabbit hole, you ricochet off the edges as you're going down the well, the rabbit hole. And there's that excitement where you're like, oh my God, this is tangible evidence. I mean, the government, Navy came out and said, yes, this is real. We are encountering things that are doing things that we don't have the technology for. And this was back in 2004, 2005. And you go, wow. And then the problem is that there's a lot of people that all of a sudden that's their gateway and they get into it. And then now they're looking at, there are giants in Peru. There are these alien bodies, all this stuff. And so I always have to say, okay, slow down there, cowboy. Don't conflate and truncate all of the phenomenons. Pick a lane. Everything doesn't have to be tied in for this universal paranormal, weird theory. And so I think what we can take away from it is that this shit has been going on. These pilots, commercial pilots for years have come out and said this. Rarely, occasionally do people in the military, but now it is,
getting
it
more
is accepted.
common,
And so with the hearings and stuff, it's kind of like, all right, we all agree on that. So good. And so it now means that everyone's pretty much on the same page. But do we have any more evidence than we had beforehand?
Right.
We don't have the meta material, the material, exotic material that would be, show 100% that it's not from here and it shows intelligent design and stuff. None of that has been conclusive.
No. At the time we covered your movie, it felt imminent. It felt like, David Grush was about to open his book and it was, it's going to be any week now. I watched the hearings and we're a year later now and it's just slowly just gotten quieter and quieter and like attention spans have moved on.
Keep in mind that the thing with Grush's statement is it's all secondhand.
Right.
Yes.
He didn't see any of this stuff himself.
No.
Right.
So we need to have someone with firsthand who can come out and ideally comes out and drags out a shoebox and says, and I kind of snuck this thing out, but here it is. Blah, blah. So until that happens, all the footage is suspect. I get people I get footage all the time sent to me. What do you think about this? And I'm going, okay, well, the effect that they did is at the wrong frame rate. So that's not good. So it's kind of find myself, I'm debunking and I say that in the proper sense of it, where it's like, if something is bunk, it needs to be debunked.
Yes. Yeah. If it's obviously not right.
Yeah. There's skeptics I don't have any room for skeptics because it's kind of like, oh, I'm just skeptical of this. Yeah, but did you do the research? Did you look at the testimony?
You've arrived at your conclusion, and then you're trying to find evidence to support your conclusion rather than looking at the evidence and then arriving there.
I'm an analyst, if anything. Where I look at the material and I get into it and I kick the tires. So my feeling on this is, yeah, that's great. Now everyone's caught up. It's legit. We don't have to cue the X-Files music every time we talk about it in the media.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But my feeling right now, and here's my prediction, and I've got a couple projects that I'm trying to work in there as well, is that what this is going to do is it's going to permeate into fictional movies, and we're going to see more films that have to do with this subject, and we should, with the new information that we have, and so we can kind of cement that this is something that we can, talk about, like ghosts. I mean, for years we show ghosts all the time. We're just like, yep, that's a ghost. That's probably what that would look like. No one does that really, to a degree, the general population here with aliens. So, in support of that thesis that I have, that belief, Spielberg, what did he do? He's announcing, already announced that he's got some new UFO film coming. Colin Firth has just been attached to it.
I saw,
I think it's, the thing about Spielberg is he truly is the master of cinema.
Yeah.
No one comes close. I'm going to call it. I'm going to say Kubrick, everyone. In that, this guy has a range that is phenomenal. If he sees something that he likes and he wants to work in that genre, he is going to add to it. I mean, it's still the most incredible footage ever created on cinema, period. Nothing comes close is the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's
ridiculous.
Insane. And what's insane about Spielberg is every time you think he's made his magnum opus, he'll make another couple movies and then suddenly, oh, there it is. That's his magnum opus now.
Yeah.
And it's very rare to find a creative who has made something that if you changed any element of it, it would only ever make it worse.
Yeah. Well, I've tried to reverse engineer it. I mean, if when you see the last podcast, there are 13 shots that are oneers in that film. Spielberg is the master of oneers. And a oneer, for those people who may not know what I mean, it means that you have the camera set up and the whole scene is done with one shot, one take.
Right.
And the way that Spielberg masterfully does this is he has the actors move around and the camera move. And so you go from like a wide shot to someone will move up and now they're closer. Oh, now we have a medium shot. And then the camera moves in and gets a close up and it's all done. And it's done by people who, like Michael Bay, wouldn't know how to do a oneer to.
No.
And
There's not 17
Bay,
edits a second. He doesn't know how to watch
a film. It's all edit. It's
like,
and you got Luc Besson, who he knows how to do a oneer. And it's just this beautiful, phenomenal thing that's done. Certainly, Fincher's good at oneers as well, but it's an art form the way he does it. And at 27 years old, Spielberg is doing Jaws, and that scene where they get on the ferry for the car, and the mayor shows up and they're talking to him. I mean, it's just the boldness that Spielberg had, the kahunas. At that age to go, no, we don't need to, do all this cover. This is going to be it, and we're going to play it. Is just astronomical. And so I really feel that.
Dude, the whole thing with the last podcast, there's so many elements of it that I fucking adore. The soundtrack is a huge one. There are moments in there that sound like Sigur Rós. And it immediately leads into a very different type of scene. And it all of a sudden sounds like Sigur Rós has been melted on a radiator over last week, and now it's angry. And then this is what hits you. And it's just, again, the cold bones hit you while it's still quite funny on the screen, but the unsettling shit is still all in there, man. It's
I want to give mad props to Tristan Clark, who is the composer. And he worked off my temp. I had a real trouble with the temp on this more than any other film doing a temp track because there is a horror, there is comedy, There is moments of kind of slapstick. There's dread. I mean, there's a little bit of romance, relationship. It has a full cornucopia. In order to pull together, I'm pulling stuff from the movie The Following for my temp track to Danny Elfman, all this stuff. And he just made it into this unified theory that crushed. I mean, this guy, young guy, he's a rock star, went to Juilliard, classically trained. He's just coming at it and he's going, here, we're going to do this. And he's going to infuse a little bit of John Carpenter and everything. And there's one scene where I will just say a guy's wearing a flannel shirt.
Yes. Yeah.
That when I listened to that and what he did with that, I was like, oh, this might be too fucked up. This might be, I'm getting triggered here. And, and so anyway, it's music. Okay, so images show you how to feel. Music tells you how to feel.
Exactly that.
Exactly that. And I'm glad to hear that you guys like that because I'm really happy with that. As soon as we were done, I said, dude, put that on like a CD or something so I can listen to it in my car and just,
We adored so much about this film. Now, obviously, this has got its premiere coming in a few days from recording. When we publish this, it will have premiered. But what are the plans for getting people to see this? How can people watching this now who haven't seen it yet? Do we know what the plans are yet for how they can get their eyes around a copy?
So usually the way that it works for independent films is you have your film that you want it to do the festival circuit.
Yeah.
You want to get those laurels and you also want to get write-ups and get quotes and stuff. And then once you've done that and you've kind of beta tested your film out there with an audience. And I do need to give a shout out to Sarah Appleton, who has done some great docs. She did the found footage phenomenon. She's from the UK. She's one of your people.
Oh, there we go.
I showed it to her. I showed her like an earlier cut, and I had been submitting to Sundance and Tribeca with this earlier cut and the music not right and everything, and was kind of just going, shit, we didn't get into these, blah, blah. So I show it to her and she says, what are you doing? And I go, I'm trying to get a film out there. She goes, okay, dude, you've done horror films. You need to come home. You need to embrace this and you need to submit it to horror film festivals. This is an audience horror film festival friendly film. Get your head out of your ass, Dean. And, and so she made the introduction with Fright Fest, and so it's like I'm like, yes, I am home. Sorry, I got confused for a while, but I'm back on the straight and narrow. And so first, I want to have people see it the way that they should be seen. And so for me, first and foremost, above everything else, getting the film sold and everything, that's going to be its own karmic thing, right? It's how does it play with the audience and how, to be able to show your thing in the church of cinema. Yeah. And so we've sold out both of our shows, which is great, our Friday and Monday show. And so the goal is, man. Thank you. When the write-ups, the reviews drop the next day because there's an embargo until then. That along with the laurels and everything, then we ramp into distribution and getting it out there. And so there's probably a few more festivals. We're having our world premiere at Fright Fest, but we haven't had our Northern American premiere yet. So we've submitted to some festivals here, and hopefully that'll happen. I'm looking forward to that. And then, so it'll probably be sometime mid next year.
Brilliant.
That people will see it, maybe early. I mean, it depends. I mean, as an example, Skinamarink, their thing got leaked and then they forced it, and within months it came out. So I don't try to look into my crystal ball of distribution and how does that going to work.
You'll have
every film has its own karma journey. Right. It's going to go wherever.
You'll have our glowing review to throw into the list. So hopefully 100%. We can help speed the distribution tiny bit.
Right on.
But Bud, thanks for being here, man. I've only really got like one question left, if that's all right with you. Yeah. I just want to know what your favorite film is. Like, what's your one film that you look to and go, that's it? That's the one.
Sophie's choice here.
It's Sophie's choices. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. It changes, obviously.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
your favorite meal? Well, it's going to be this, and then it'll be something else.
Depends on the
Yeah.
time of day.
I'm gonna wuss out and say there's 3 films that I go to time and time again.
Okay.
And All the President's Men.
Oh, incredible film.
Ooh, okay.
Incredible film.
Okay, and again, what is brilliant about that film is that the audience already knows how it ends.
Yeah.
And yet you're
Yeah,
going with this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's no main villain guy
No.
that's there in your face.
Yeah.
It's
Number
not a
2,
whodunit,
I'm gonna
it's
go
a
with,
how catch 'em.
yeah.
Right.
And number 2, I'm going to go with Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Oh,
Great choice. Great choice.
beautiful.
because it's how many films. I'm going to ask you guys,
Yeah.
both you guys, how many films have genuine awe, where you are in
No,
awe?
right. A
Of this
handful.
film.
Ooh.
A handful. Like the recent Dune movies have got a bit of that. Just in terms of the artistic eye on stage and the scale
When I
of
say
things.
awe, I'm talking spiritual awe.
Oh,
Right.
not Dune,
Okay.
because Timothy Chalamet looks like a haunted shoe.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That scene where
Oh,
Barry
yeah.
opens the door and the light comes through.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Okay.
And another amazing thing is that there are no villains in that film.
No.
Mm.
No, even the wife is totally right to have the reaction that she has to. He does
100.
fuck all around the house.
Yeah.
And then he loses his fucking mind. And she's like, we're trying to raise kids. Stop playing with
Yeah.
your fucking meal.
Yeah, put the toys away
Right.
and
Yeah.
fucking grow up.
Right.
Yeah.
The
But he's
dog's
going
doing more
through-
than you here, buddy. Like, what the fuck?
Look, he cleans up his bowl.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And then the third one, I'm probably going to I'm going to do another Spielberg thing, and I might do Jaws. These are the films that I have
Jaws,
on
yeah.
in rotation.
Yeah,
I mean, Raiders. There was a period when that was a film that I saw more than any other film. But right there, right there is Fincher's Opus, which I think is his. This film I'm about to mention. I think it's every bit as good as, for me, Stanley Kubrick's best film is A Clockwork Orange, and the reason why I
Yes.
say that is because he created an alternate universe that is so real. You feel. I mean, when I was a kid and I saw this film much too early, I thought, oh, that's what it's like in England.
Yeah.
That must
Oh,
be
yeah, it
right.
is. I mean, yeah. We've got bowler hats and
And so-
milk bars everywhere.
No,
You've got
so the
bowler
film-
hats.
Shut up. Don't talk about that.
So the film that I think is the equivalent of that is David Fincher's Fight Club.
Yes.
Ooh, great movie.
Oh,
It's magnificent. It is. It is. Again, I mean, talk about when you hit that gear and you hit that note. It's just, and I as a filmmaker, I look at those every time I make a film. Those are the films that I look at, and then I'll listen to Beatles again, because the Beatles set the bar for being original and doing things
Yeah.
outside the box. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like every time you do a movie, you have a new opportunity to say something. And
Right.
so I can have something to say, whether it's artistic or a message, whatever. So
1,000%.
anyway, I copped out, but those are my kind of 3 ping pong, the top.
beautiful.
That's
Beautiful,
perfect,
beautiful,
man.
beautiful. Dean, thank you so
much.
much for joining us. We've got a little favor to ask you after we wrap this up.
For fuck's sake, seriously? God damn, I thought this podcast was over.
But it is. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been not only a massive pleasure, but a huge privilege. Thank you.
Oh, right back at you.